The sounds of a demonic forge.
Every wolf suffers fleas.
Hey everybody, DoomSFX back reviewing some of my favorite gear, and today we're looking at the Electron Analog 4. In particular, we're looking at the fact that you can have each one of these voices be a feedback oscillator on oscillator 1, and you can set this, the second oscillator, to neighbor. What does that mean? It's mysterious. There aren't a ton of videos that, at least that I've been able to find, that do kind of a deep dive into the Analog 4's feedback oscillator and neighbor track oscillator function. For newcomers, it can be kind of confusing, especially when you're learning everything else about an Electron box. But what feedback means is essentially it's just taking what is coming out after the filter and putting it back through this voice. So to demonstrate this, I've got a sequence loaded up that I've used feedback oscillators and neighbor tracks on all 4 tracks. They've all got steps programmed in on a 16-bar sequence, and this is what it sounds like. So let's start from scratch, okay? By default, you got no level on oscillator 2 on the Analog 4. Oscillator 1 comes in with just this sound. Gotta work with this thing. So let's set this to feedback oscillator. Okay, very different, right? And nothing, so we need the level at a certain amount. Okay, so let's just start there, okay? Now, the other interesting oscillator option on the Analog 4 is the neighbor track. So we've got on oscillator 1, the special thing is feedback. On oscillator 2, we've got neighbor. Now, neighbor can't do anything on track 1, and that's because what neighbor does is it takes the audio from the neighboring track, the track above it, and that's what it's outputting and feeding through it. So you can double up. You know, I could send this feedback oscillator, if I set this to neighbor, if I set this to neighbor, if I set this to neighbor, and have trigs opening the amp at the same spots, or if I have these set so that they're always open, I can use each one of these tracks' filters to do different things. I'm going to have 4 overdriven filters here, creating one voice. Does that make sense? So you've got feedback, and you've got neighbor passing through the audio and letting you use all these things. And the fact that these are multi-mode filters, you can design a sound that's got essentially 8 modulated filters happening at once. You can do really crazy stuff. And if you go into each of these tracks and set their oscillator 1 to feedback 2, you got a waterfall of insane feedbacking oscillators going through each track. It can get really complicated, and the best thing is to just kind of let this do its thing. It's just explore, put in steps, set those oscillators to the feedback oscillator and to the neighbor track, and go nuts. See what you can get. Because of the sequencer, it gets really interesting, because if I have this set with a trig here, oscillator 2 is doing nothing because we're on track 1, okay? So let's just play that. Okay, I'm gonna open up the envelope here. Okay, so that's the feedback oscillator of 1. I'm not gonna put on the feedback oscillator of track 2 yet. I'm gonna put on neighbor, okay? I'm gonna turn this up. You're not gonna hear any difference because the amp needs to open. So let me put a trig here as well. And now, if I start to mess with this, see? They're interacting because this is flowing through to this one. So this track has its own settings. This track has its own settings, but this track is now traveling through this filter as well. Now, another thing I can do is I can go to the audio routing and simply stop 1 from going to the main output. but it will still travel through this track. So we're only hearing track 2 go out to the main, but I'm going to start changing track 1. See? And it's because track 1 is feeding track 2, because track 2 has the neighbor set on it, okay? So let me go back and put that back out. Cool, all right. So you see where we're going with this? Now let's make track 2 oscillator 1 feedback oscillator. So wherever I don't have these both lined up, you're going to hear a different sound. So now this on 4, you're just hearing track 1. You guys keeping up with me? It's going to get wild. So let's just do some random stuff. So you can see where steps are lined up. You're getting the combined sound of both these oscillators because, again, track 2 is letting through track 1. Well, we got 2 more tracks. So let's get nuts.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
So I'm sending track 3 to feedback on oscillator 1, neighbor track on oscillator 2. So I'm going to bring up the neighbor track volume. And let's add in some more random stuff. How cool is that? Let's add track 4 into this. Okay, and let's do a 4 on the floor. Make this one a very sharp envelope. All right, we haven't even introduced in our sub oscillators yet. The sounds, depending on how the sequencers are lined up with open steps, will also change because of the neighbor. So you got neighboring things going back into the feedback loop. I'm doing my best here, guys. I don't have a script, but I hope this is making sense. And so then, once we start adding effects, now remember, these all share the effects bus, but it starts to get even nuttier. We also have, as an option here, amplitude modulation of the oscillators, different sync modes. So let's try some of this. So now we're amplitude modulating oscillator 2 based on the amplitude of what's coming out of here, which is going to be all crazy because of the feedback settings and the neighbor track settings. We can also overdrive all these filters. Let's do a really fast modulation on the filter frequency of the first track. And then all of this, you can add controls for the performance macros, and it just gets nuts. So let's recap. I think I got lost here. Let's go back to our first pattern and what I set up here. So another example of how we're doing that. So to recap, we've got The first oscillator on each track is a feedback oscillator. So whatever audio is going through track 1 past the filter is coming back around. And we're doing that for each track. Whatever audio is coming through track 2 past the filter is coming back through for track 2. So on and so forth. And then for our second oscillator on these tracks, we've got a waterfall happening. So this track is letting through the audio from this track. Therefore, the audio from this track that is being let through the neighbor track, the neighbor oscillator on here, is going into this one's feedback loop, creating crazy sounds. This is waterfalling down to this one, neighbor track, getting the feedback here again, and you're coming all the way down, and it's bananas, all right? Feedback oscillators, neighbor track, go wild. It's unpredictable. If you say you know what sound it's gonna make, I don't believe you. You just gotta dive in, set steps and manipulate, set parameter locks, you'll get something cool. This featured heavily actually on a track I just released called Neverborn. There's this noisy bass line under the percussive stuff that is created from feedback oscillator settings on this. I hope this is helpful for anybody out there who's looking for more information on what the hell is the feedback oscillator setting and what is the neighbor setting on oscillator 2 on this thing, because it is a little opaque. The manual describes it, but until you see it in action, at least for me, I have to think of it as the feedback is the loop and neighbor is the waterfall flowing down. And yeah, you get really doomy sounds. You get noisy, crunchy, awesome, percussive stuff, and it's very modular. Again, each sequencer track is interacting with the other sequencer tracks. They're not just all doing their same thing, because these are all listening to what's happening above. And depending on when their amp is open to let sound through, they might be catching the sounds of the track that came before, which also goes through that feedback patch. So if you keep changing your sequencer steps, you're gonna keep on getting new different sounds. I'm Doom SFX. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. I've got music released out wherever you get your music, and I really enjoy sharing my love for sound design and gear and blah, blah, blah. All right, here we go. I'm going to just mess around here for the outro. All right.